welcome. This is Stephanie from Sephora, Destin, and we are going to be doing a really awesome tutorial today featuring these lovely products right here. We're going to be showing you how to achieve a sweat-proof, budge-proof look to wear to the beach, to an outdoor wedding, out to dinner, wherever you want to go, girl. And this is going to be my model today. Her name is Shayla.
Hi, Shayla.
And we're going to get going. We've already prepped Shay's skin. She's a little bit more on the dry side. So when you're thinking about sweat-proof makeup, you really want to consider your skin type, particularly if you are more dry. You want to use products that are going to properly prime your skin. That way, that long-wear makeup that you're going to apply lays a lot smoother and much better. And of course, it's going to look a lot nicer throughout the day as it wears. So we already prepped Shay's skin. We did use the Lala Retro moisturizer from Drunk Elephant, available at Sephora. It's a really great texture, wears beautifully under makeup, and if you are more dry, even normal, you can wear this, and it's a beautiful moisturizer day and night.
Is that a pump on the top there?
It is, yeah. So you just push down.
Oh, so nice.
Get the product that we don't have to dip in the jar constantly, so it's super hygienic. We love that.
Perfect.
All right. So we all know the first step to beautiful makeup is prepping, but also priming. So today we're going to use the Hourglass Mineral Veil Primer. It does have a little bit of SPF in it, which is super fantastic. Right here. Super, super lightweight. It does go on the skin, quite sheer. Oh my goodness. We have an empty jar, guys.
must be nice.
Exactly. So it blends right into the skin, blurs, smooths.
It looks dewy.
It's beautiful.
Not oily. Dewy.
Yep, exactly. Not heavy.
You see the front of it again?
Oh, sure.
Pick some up because I just might.
It's fantastic, and the best part is it makes anything you put on top waterproof and water resistant. So it's perfect to wear on its own if you just want a kind of blurred, filtered look, or if you are going to wear makeup. So it's fantastic. So we're going to go ahead and start with that. And just take a little bit. I am going to warm it up on my fingers, even though it's not a silicone base. It is oil-free also, by the way. For you oily ladies out there, you can use this too. And I'm going to apply all over. So particularly where makeup might break up first, usually in that T-zone area, even if you are more dry, makeup can separate, it can kind of cling to certain areas throughout the day the more dry your skin gets, especially if you're gonna be outside. So we wanna be sure that everything is perfect and well primed. I love applying primer with the fingers. I see a lot of times in tutorials, people use either tools, sponges, brushes, things like that. Warming the product up in your fingers really helps it work into the skin much, much better. So I would suggest using fingers.
Great tip.
All right. So I'm actually gonna let that primer kind of settle into the skin. We're actually gonna go right into eyes, guys. That's probably one of the biggest questions that we get as artists here. We have clients ask all the time, should I do my eyes first? Should I do my foundation and my base first?
Right.
I always recommend doing eyes, particularly if you are going to work with shimmers, which we are going to do today for a fun summer look, particularly because you do get a little bit of fallout sometimes, no matter how great quality the shadow is, just because that's just the formula. So you'll get a little fallout down here. It's always easier to clean that up and kind of start fresh versus having your whole base done and you have to wipe away your concealer, your foundation, all that.
Right.
So we're gonna go ahead and get right into eyes. So I like to do a little special concoction, especially if I want to neutralize the lid area at all. So my favorite new eye primer is the Makeup Forever. This is the eye and lip primer. So this will help keep your lipstick on and your eyeshadow all day long. Particularly if you have really, really oily eyelids. I have the worst oily eyelids. I used to swear by the NARS, but this is my new bae. Okay, so then we have the full cover waterproof concealer from Makeup Forever. I'm actually gonna do a little mix of these. That way we get the color from this, but the waterproof effect of this.
Like a true artist.
Exactly. Yep, so I'm going to mix these on the back of my hand. You don't have to do this. Whatever eye primer you have at home is probably just fine, but if you like a little bit of a neutralizing effect, you want those shadows to show up nice and vibrant, I do recommend doing a little bit of a color to it. It'll just help it blend. So I'm warming that up a bit. And I'm going to use my Sephora brush. This is the number 28. And I'm just gonna apply this to Shay's eyes. She has those beautiful lashes. I'm gonna try to stay away from those. I know, aren't they gorgeous? The beauty experts. I know. They're fake. You said lash envy?
Yes.
Where's Lash Envy?
Oh, no.
Oh, no, she's envious.
Oh, I thought that was the shop. Oh my gosh.
No, I get them done.
Familiar. Maybe that is actually.
I get them done at the Beauty Experts in Fort Walton.
Oh, there we go.
Tilly and Kayla are amazing.
Good to know.
Yep.
And they're so like fluffy. I love them. All right, so you can see when Shea opens, it's a nice, beautiful, neutral, and almost a little bit of a brighter canvas. So those colors are gonna pop a lot more.
Yeah.
So before we get into any color, we are going to be dipping into an Fenty palette, but we don't have any kind of flesh tone matte shades in that palette. So I am going to use actually what is going to be our setting powder. This is a great little trick too. Translucent powder is a great thing to set your eye primer. This is the Waterproof All-Nighter from Urban Decay. I believe it is a universal shade, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, that makes it easy.
Right, exactly. So I'm just gonna take a nice little fluffy brush. This is a retired Sephora number 10 blender. Sorry guys, but we have a lot of similar ones in store.
What would be one similar?
Either the 19 or the 27.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Good to know.
Yep. So I'm just kind of laying that down. I am staying away from the kind of inner part of her eye, close to the brow, more like the outer third, just to kind of set that primer. I don't want to use any matte shadows all over the lid because we are going to do a shimmer, and that's going to kind of dull down the shimmer if we set it with a matte powder.
Okay, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. Doesn't have to be super precise. We're just laying it down, so don't worry if it gets a little messy. All right. So now for the fun part. Okay, so this is the brand new Fenty Beauty. This is the Moroccan Spice palette, which you guys have maybe seen all over social media. It is well loved by everyone.
Yes. Oh,
so unlike her very first palette, which was all shimmers, lots of glitters, you do have a nice little balance of mattes and shimmers in here. The cool thing too is you get a little bit of a cool tone and you get a little bit of a warm tone. So you can kind of see the palette two ways. So I'm going to start off with a little bit of a crease shade. We're going to go right into this little peachy baby right here. Same brush. Nice fluffy blender just to get a little bit of a transition. So I'm just starting in the outer corner. One thing to keep in mind too, wherever you first place your brush, that's where you're gonna get the highest deposit of product. Another thing to keep in mind, so I'm first placing my brush on the outside. Once I have a little bit less, I'm gonna start blending towards the lash line and then a little bit over into the crease.
So as far as eye shape, would you do that for any eye shape, or?
This is sort of the most flattering in terms of placement. So to kind of create that like almond, like elongated with most of the depth on the outer portion, keeping a little bit lighter towards like the inner two-thirds, inner third of the eye. That's kind of the most universally flattering way in terms of placement. So I would recommend it. It would look great on any eye shape.
Okay, because I'm going to have a hooded,
yes.
hooded eye, and that
yes.
confuses me sometimes.
Yes, so for hooded eyes, I totally, if anything, this is the optimal choice for hooded eyes. I have hooded eyes as well. And you definitely want to kind of create more of an open look, right? And make the lid look a little bit larger. I know because when my eyes are open all the way, I kind of lose a little bit of that. So I want to keep it nice and bright, open it up, pull it forward. So I do focus most of my depth on the outside, and I like to keep, especially in the center and in the inner corner, but particularly the center, as bright as possible.
Okay.
So I'm kind of building up a little bit of that peach. It's slowly coming together. At first it was a little soft, but now we're getting it.
I'm going to have to follow this when I get home.
Yeah.
It's like a sunset.
It's gorgeous, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to have Shea open for me. Let's see the color we got there. Oh, very, very pretty. Let's build up a little bit more. I know, right? It's looking good, looking good.
That's it, end of tutorial.
And you're done. No,
Yeah.
but I mean, honestly, depending on how much you enjoy working with color, something like this is really easy to start with. Just a really soft kind of punch of peach or even a little bit of pink with just some really great mascara, and that's a great way to kind of get your toes wet. Also two liners, which I will show at some point. Yeah. So this is actually Marc Jacobs. I have the Marigold and the Rococo gel liner kind of layered on top of each other, and it gives a little fun pop, a little bit of dimension to the eye. So yeah, if you're afraid of colored shadows, dip into liners. They're super fun. Even colored mascaras, that's another good one too. All right, so we're getting a little bit of that peach. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the other side. So we're gonna move right over here. Again, same thing. Most deposit is where you first plant that brush. And I always tell people it's always easier to add more color than to take away, right? So it's always better to start off with a little bit. Be sure you tap your brush off every single time. That way you don't go too overboard. Because it would be kind of hard to mute that nice peach shade if we did too much. All right, all the way over. Until you get that desired depth. Go and open for me. Let's see what we got. Okay, go and close. This is looking really pretty. And then I always like to tell clients, don't worry too much. Eyeshadow is probably one of the biggest questions we get in terms of application and tools and things like that. One thing that I always tell people, especially when you're building your transition color in your crease, your outer corner, whatever it may be, try not to worry too much about the outer portion. If it gets a little bit dusty or if you feel like it's pulled out a little far, it's really, really easy to clean up. So don't worry too much about making it look perfect, because there's a really great trick to make it look totally perfect. So don't worry, don't worry. Okay. So now we're gonna go ahead and with our lid color right over here, which is gonna be a beautiful kind of like greeny with a little bit of silver. It's so stunning. I'm actually going to use my finger to tap this on Shay's lid. The reason that I recommend this method is because number one, you're gonna minimize fallout quite a bit, and you're really gonna get that full pigment payoff from your shadow. So we're gonna go ahead and do this side first. And just relax your eyes for me. Perfect. I mean, wow. That is so stunning.
Oh, okay, I already want this palette.
Isn't it fun? So this is going to make your eyes look so alive, so bright. It's an interesting color. It's not a typical champagne. It's not a typical
there's a little bit of
It's a little bit of a green. It's so pretty.
What was the palette? Moroccan?
This is the Moroccan Spice from Fenty.
Exotic.
Yep, and that is the shade. Actually, it's called Moroccan Ice. So that makes perfect sense.
So, yeah, you can see the little...
It's so pretty. I know. I just can't get over it. I can't get over it. It's so fun. And the reason I really love this palette, again, not only because she incorporated a lot of mattes this time, but they're really interesting shades. It's not one of those kind of neutral palettes, like, oh, I have like 50 shades of this brown at home. It's really fun, really different types of shades, different pops of color, and really cool textures. There's a couple toppers in here, true shimmers, and just,
what is...
Yeah, so... For instance, this shade right here, and actually this shade too, these two in particular, which I might do one in the inner corner. One's called Mirage and one's called Marrakesh. Sorry.
That's okay.
So as you can see, it looks like it'd be a full pigment, has a nice kind of peachy base to it. But unlike this one, which we just did on Shay's lid, this one is going to translate a lot more sheer, so it's great to add a little bit extra dimension. We're gonna put it in the inner corner for not like a full-blown shade, but just a little bit of something to help kind of bring it forward. So it's gonna be really, really pretty.
Cool.
Okay, so I want to grab a different brush.
Go with your outfit too. Let's just check her out.
So I'm going to use a Sephora 27. This one's a little bit flatter on the sides and a little bit more dense than the number 10 that we just were using. And I just want to use this just to make sure that the edges are a little bit more seamless between the meeting of the two shades. So I kind of just go right in between where those two shades meet, just to make sure that they're easily nice and blended. Go ahead and open for me. Oh, see that nice gradient? That's so pretty. So I'm just gonna go right on the top too. I'm barely touching her eye, just a really nice feather light kind of application, just to make sure there's no, again, harsh lines. So we're gonna go over here and just softly blend the top of that. And I'm gonna turn you a little more towards me. And I'm just gonna press right on top where those shades meet. Looks so pretty, so pretty. All right, so now we're gonna do a little bit of depth on the eye. So we're gonna dip into these two. We're actually gonna mix them together. And these are matte, yes. So I do believe one is called Spice Trip and the other one is called Come and Get It. So we're gonna mix those two together. I'm actually gonna stick with the 27 because it's gonna do what I want it to do, which is plant the shades down pretty boldly. It still allows me to blend a little bit.
Right.
I'm gonna tap that off. And we'll start over here. So right in the outermost part of the eye. And then we'll kind of flip that baby out just a little bit. So once it's kind of blended a little bit more, I'm gonna go right to the top of that. Go ahead and open for me, Shay, and just look straight ahead. And guys, don't be afraid to open your eyes up when you're applying your shadow. That's the best way to ensure that you're placing it exactly where you want it. And I do that all the time. Just look straight ahead, plant your brush right where you want it to go, and then watch as it's blended.
Nothing's getting into those eyes with those awesome eyelashes.
I know.
That's for sure.
No, it's so great. So we'll mix a little bit more just to get a little bit more depth. And on this time, I'm going to bring a little bit closer to her lash line here. That way it's a little bit more seamless. It kind of creates a little bit of like a V shape here. And you don't have to bring it all the way across. We want to keep most of the depth, the deepest part, right on the outside, okay? All right, so we're gonna do the same thing on this side. So I'm kind of pushing it and like stamping it on the eye. And kind of once I get that color, most of it off, then I'm kind of flipping it out, softly blending a little bit into the crease. It's called directional blending. Fun fact, directional blending. Go and open, look straight ahead. Perfect. Oh yes, girl. Looking pretty. All right. So here comes the little trick part. So I'm just gonna take a little cotton round here. Cotton ball will work, Q-tip will work, but this will kind of make it a little bit easier in one clean sweep.
That's just makeup remover.
Just makeup remover, whatever you have at home. Fold that baby in half. Look straight ahead for me, Shay. Right on the angle of the eye. Almost like it's a continuation of your lower lash line. Right up on that angle, everything's clean, any excess is removed, and you're good to go. Perfect.
Yeah.
Same on this side. And then look straight up for me. Any little shimmer we had fall down, I'm just gonna pick that up. Perfect. Okay, so we are gonna come back to the lower lash line later because we have a little fun little pop of color to add in there. Another thing too that you could add if you wanted for a little bit of extra color.
That one.
Yes, so this is part of the Born to Run collection from Urban for the summer. This is the shade Overdrive. And these are totally waterproof.
And they go on so
Smudge-proof.
easily.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So creamy.
Waterline, lash line, anywhere you want to put them. I've also used them too as like an all over base on my lid. If you want to kind of, if you're going to be working with greens, for example.
How do you do that?
And you really want them to pop. So you just kind of place it on, or you can even work with your finger and just kind of tap it on.
Yeah.
But I usually just kind of apply it a little bit messy all over the lid, and then I blend it out with my finger.
Oh, okay.
And then any greens you put on top are going to be that much more intense. It's really great.
Oh, I gotta try that too.
Yeah.
Gotta make a list right now.
All right. So I'm just going to add a little bit on Shay's upper lash line. And I'm just going to use the Sephora. This is the number 18 smudger. Okay, and relax your eyes for me. Perfect. Just really soft on her lash line. Barely, barely there. Because I am going to smudge it out just slightly. So you want to make sure that the initial line that you begin with is quite slim because you are going to kind of diffuse it a bit. And then you can always add a little bit more color if you want to. So I'm going to go ahead with my smudger. Before it sets, you do have about, I would say 15 seconds or so with these, and also the Marc Jacobs, the ones that I'm wearing today, to kind of blend them out or smudge them if you want. But once they set, they won't go anywhere. Go and open. So that's a little pop of green, brings out her lid shade quite a bit. It's really fun. Just a little bit of something. Yeah. So we'll go ahead and match it up on the other side. one open? Perfect. All right, so now we're gonna get into the fun part, which is complexion. So we already primed, we let that sit for a little bit, so she's ready to go. So we are going to use the NARS. This is the Pure Radiant Tinted Moisturizer. You get SPF 30 in this guy.
Nice.
Medium, I would say light to medium coverage. It's actually one of the more full coverage tinted moisturizers on the market. It looks beautiful, very natural, just like skin. So we have additional SPF in this. We have SPF in our primer.
Right.
And we are using something a little bit more skin-like for her, just because we don't want to weigh it down, especially if she's going to like a beach party or an outdoor wedding.
Right.
We don't want to do full, heavy, you know, anything like that.
Summer fresh.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We are using, of course, waterproofing products to help last this a little bit longer, but we want to keep the skin as breathable as possible.
Yeah.
So, I'm just gonna take a little bit of this on the back of my hand. And I would recommend applying this the way you would normally, so with fingers. You can also use a brush to build up more coverage, and we can go back and do that after. But I'm gonna go ahead and get my initial layer down.
Do you like to start on the cheeks for some reason, or no?
Yeah, so I usually start in the center of the face. You'll kind of notice I planted my finger here, and I'm kind of working my way out. I always like to start my foundation in the center of the face. That tends to be where we want or need the most coverage. We get redness here, we get a little bit of a breakout, uneven tone, things like that. Tends to be more in the center of the face. We tend to not need as much around the perimeter, so I like to focus most of the product in the center. Yeah.
Yeah, I get a lot of redness around my nose.
I know, me too. I always have to go back with a concealer. It drives me nuts.
I like, yeah.
This whole thing is just redness right now, so get in there, girl.
Your face, please. That's a great. Oh no, I was like, no. You have great
You've
complexion.
seen this.
NARS is all about complexion. So they have beautiful, lightweight products, foundations, even the tinted moisturizer. Lots of sun protection in them, and they actually recommend all of the NARS complexion products to be applied with hands.
Oh,
that's kind of how you get
cool.
the best application.
Yeah, they used to have, or still do, I don't know, a contouring, just
Yes.
just two colors. You know?
Yes, I loved
I
those.
think it was Olympia that I used.
Olympia, there's Paloma.
And now I don't know. Are they still on the market?
Yes, they haven't been discontinued. We change assortment so often in our store because we are so small.
Yeah.
So usually when a brand comes out with a new product, we end up having to drop one of the older ones from just because we're so small.
Yeah.
But they do still make the contour duos. Yes, I think they were called contour blushes actually, which I thought was so kind of misleading almost. Like if you didn't really know what it was, you were like, this doesn't look like a blush.
Well, that's what we got.
Right.
Thanks for the help.
Yeah, no problem. And then especially anything like a tinted moisturizer, it usually is best applied with fingers. But if you do want to build up and get the most coverage you can out of it, once you kind of get your initial layer, you can go back in and build where you need to. So I'm going to use the Sephora 56. I swear by this brush, it does everything. Liquids, powders, anything you need. I'm going to go back in with a little bit more. And just build in the center.
So normally when I put my concealer on, which, like I said, I do it all over my nose too.
Yeah.
I don't know if I should tap or do a combination of both, or the brush stroke. Like, I'm just not
Okay, so do you apply your concealer with fingers initially, or you just tap with your finger?
No, I use a brush.
Oh, you use a brush. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can always go back on with a sponge if you feel like it's streaky in any way. And the sponge will kind of help smooth everything out. It kind of helps diffuse. It also will pick up any excess product, which is great.
Do you recommend maybe just your fingers? Or?
You could just do your fingers. I find on my nose, though, if I'm trying to build coverage with my fingers on my nose, it almost is like the skin is like different on the nose. It's very interesting. I'm like, it's like coming off, like what's going on. So I always have to use a sponge or a brush on my nose. Everywhere else I seem to be fine with just tapping. But I don't know if it's, maybe it's because my nose is more oily that I find it kind of moves.
Yeah,
it's so weird. It's so weird.
You could probably try it.
Turn away for me. Perfect. Yeah. And then I always get questions about tinted moisturizers, BBs, CCs. Even though this one does offer a great amount of coverage, you do want to apply with a brush or fingers, just because if you do apply something like this to the sponge, it's going to absorb a lot of the product.
Yeah.
And usually products like this aren't designed to give an enormous amount of coverage, so you're going to end up losing even the little coverage that you get from it because it's absorbed into the sponge. So you don't get the full effect. Exactly. You can go back in certain spots to make sure it's not too gathered or bunched up around the nose, but other than that, I would do initial application with brush or... So we have her overall base down. We're going to do a little extra coverage in certain areas. I'm going to go back and use our waterproof full cover from Makeup Forever. This is incredible for hyperpigmentation, scarring, even tattoos. Very, very great.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. So I'm just going to take a little bit of this. I'm going to keep my 56 handy. And I'm just going to go anywhere we want a little extra coverage. And I'm just diffusing that. I'm kind of blending it with what I have remaining from our tinted moisturizer. Just pushing that into the skin. And luckily, even though this is a matte finish concealer, it is waterproof and it's very full coverage because Shea is properly primed and prepped with moisturizer. It's gonna look great. So if you want a little additional coverage on the nose, we'll use it as a little bit of a highlight too, because it's a little bit of a brighter shade.
Yeah.
Why not, right?
Yeah, for real.
So anywhere you want to neutralize. Let's see, turn this way for me a little bit. Okay. And just kind of targeting where we want that additional coverage. I don't find that something like this needs to go all over by any means. Looks good. No, you're fine. So I'm going to take whatever I have left from the tinted moisturizer. I'm just going to do a little bit under Shay's eyes. Go ahead and look up for me. So this is definitely a tutorial that is not going to involve baking or anything like that. We want to be kind of beach ready at a moment's notice, because we are sweat proofed and waterproofed. So we're not going to be doing a ton of powder in terms of setting or anything like that. Nothing heavy under the eyes. You want to keep it as light as possible.
You said you're using the tinted moisturizer?
This is still the tinted moisturizer that I have left over. So it's a really lightweight formula. Again, it's more hydrating, so it's not going to settle in her under eyes at all or dry it out, which is great.
Yeah. I feel like you need a lot of moisture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I love stuff that helps your face at the same time as covering it up.
Right,
That's
exactly.
Ideal.
I love that. All right. So we're gonna let the cream products kind of settle there. I'm gonna go ahead and put a little bit of a brow on. So this is the brand new Kat Von D. This is the Longwear pomade. It's super, super creamy. A lot of clients, yes, this is medium brown. And we get a lot of questions, how does this compare? I'd say this one is definitely a little bit more creamy, very, very smooth. I know Shay is a huge fan of it. What do you love about it?
I love that it doesn't, I feel like with the Anastasia, it dries out just a little bit quickly, just to get it to be creamy, but with this one, I feel like you don't have that issue at all.
Exactly. I agree with that.
Huh. Okay. I'm very new to the brow game.
Yeah.
I haven't even dove into it or anything yet,
So typically something like this would be applied with like an angled brush. This is a Sephora 22. Just to kind of draw it onto the brow. That's kind of what we were used to seeing. Yeah. But I'm actually going to use a spoolie. And I put a little bit on the back of my hand. Because again, we want to keep the nice natural look, but we want the longevity of it, the product. So I'm just going to work a little bit into the spoolie here, and I'm going to comb it through.
Mascara spoolies, which I didn't know that was what it was called.
You totally could. I believe they have them also at like most supply stores too. And we're just going to comb this through the brow like a brow gel.
Yeah.
So it's going to give her a little extra color. We're going to get that gorgeous hold from it.
All right, I need that.
I mean, it made such a difference already, and it's so soft and subtle, but it makes such a great difference, and we're still getting that hold, the shape, the color, everything that we want, but it still looks as natural as possible. It's amazing, right?
Yeah. Oh my god.
I know. One side to the other. It's incredible.
I know, because I feel like a lot of people have issues with that second part of the eyebrow.
Yes.
You know, it's like, so if you fill that in,
yes,
the whole world changed.
And I would say too, again, it's going to depend on how your brows are naturally shaped, where you have hair, where you don't, things like that. But I find with someone like Shay, who has a great shape already, and she has great volume too, she just needs maybe a little bit of a fill. So I kind of started almost like midway, so not super close to the front, because you want to keep that light, and we don't want to deposit a ton of product here. So almost kind of in the middle-esque, and then you can work the product this way or that way and just blend it really easy.
That's gotta last forever, that little pop.
Exactly. It's so, I just was shocked at the formula when I first felt it. It almost seemed like, how would this last? Like, it's so,
it does,
exactly. I was truly shocked in a good way, in a very good way. And I do find that this builds really great. So even if you do like your first layer and you're like, oh, I want a little bit more, you can go back over it and it doesn't get flaky. Doesn't get clumpy.
Just adds the right amount of sophistication.
Exactly.
You know,
it totally polishes the look.
Right.
Yeah.
It's crazy how the tiny little things, you know.
We're in love. We love the brows. All right. I thought I accidentally hit my spoolie on the forehead, so I'm just making sure that nothing's messed up there. Okay.
Yeah, are you kidding me? When I put on makeup, I'm like, oh, got that there. Take that off.
So now we have the brows done. We're going to go ahead and set all of the creams again. We're going to go back to our all-nighter powder from Urban Decay, which is awesome. I'm going to use a fluffy brush for this. Also synthetic, because I don't want to grab any of the creams that we laid down.
Okay.
Just going to plant my brush in here. Again, tapping off.
What about for everyday wear with that powder? Does it help the oily spots, or would you not use it like that? Or?
I don't necessarily know that it's going to be mattifying, to be honest. I imagine that it will be, because it does help control shine and also movement from the makeup.
Yeah.
I think, though, that if you were more dry, like for Shay, I don't know that it would be appropriate for everyday wear, because it might take a toll on our skin, especially throughout the day. But it's great in terms of sweat, water. So I do think for oiliness, it would probably be a great mattifier.
Yeah. I'm about to just tap some on my forehead.
Exactly. So I'm just kind of tapping in the center first. And you'll notice I'm just pressing, because I don't want to swirl and kind of pull and tug all that product away.
Just adding the finishing.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I started, of course, in the center, because that's where I want to definitely keep everything. And then we'll just go back around the edges. Thank you. Right over the brows. Perfect. So I think it's a good time to add that little pop of color under the eyes. Okay.
I know, that's what we've been waiting for.
We're really excited.
I know. We're all excited.
So we're gonna go back into the Fenty Moroccan Spice palette. I'm gonna go back with my little number 18 brush, small shader from Sephora, and grab a little bit of this blue. I'm so excited.
So glad you used that.
I just had to. I know, I was looking at this palette and I was like, what kind of look should we do? And I was like, I just have to use this blue.
Yes.
And the reason that I wanted to feature it the most is because I feel like it can be a little bit scary.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, you kind of look at this palette and you're like, wow, I love these. They're kind of very on trend, very warm, but it's like, what am I going to do with this blue? And we decided that rather than, you don't have to just sweep it all over the lid. It's not like, 1983 again.
Right.
We're we're gonna do a little accent of a color.
Yeah.
As if, now you can do it even though we did a little bit of that liner on top. This will still be fun.
Yeah.
So, look up for me. I'm just going to press that on the lower lash line. And it has some shimmer in it, so it's gonna give you a little bit of dimension. It just reminds me of like a swimming pool. It's so pretty. So you notice I was kind of pressing it and stamping it on first, because it does have a little bit of shimmer. I don't want it to fall down on anything.
As far as putting stuff on the bottom lash line,
Yes.
would you recommend that for everyone, or only certain types of eyes, or like our eyes? Like what would you do?
I would say it depends on the type of product, the color, and where you're putting it.
Yeah.
So again, kind of like the rule of thumb with everything. So with Shea, for example, if we did, now let's say we were doing a wing liner on top too.
Right.
So we did a wing liner with this look, and then we wanted to do black underneath too to kind of tie it together.
Yeah.
You wouldn't necessarily want to bring it all the way across. The reason I say that is because the placement of the shadow, we do want to accentuate the shape of her eye. We want to keep them nice and open. So if you tend to pull dark colors and loop it all the way around the eye, it's just going to make the eyes look much smaller.
Right.
So we want to keep them as open as possible. And so it's kind of fading a little bit towards the inner part of the eye.
Yeah.
And kind of pushing it on the outer corner so it's blended with the top. Go ahead and look straight ahead. Oh, that looks so pretty.
Ooh, yes. I like that.
And you can see how it made her eye look a little larger on this side.
Totally. It
Fun
does.
little interest for color. Nothing too crazy.
So for us, we would probably put it like even more on the edge.
Even more on the edge, exactly.
Yeah.
So what I'd recommend if your eyes are more hooded, or what I like to do for my own personal shape, is if I do anything on the lower lash line, I do maybe like a third of the way in, and I'll just really diffuse it a little bit more inside, so it's not a super intense or harsh line. So it's kind of faded out, it's more blended, and it's a little bit more seamless that way, but I don't have a super intense, opaque amount of product all the way across, because then it's going to make my eyes look smaller.
Right. Yeah, because it's like we always want to play with that lower lash line, but then we're like, I don't know, and with all these videos out there and everything, you don't know who to listen to and who not. So you come here and now we know. Yes.
If you're ever not sure, just come ask us and we'll help you figure it out. Look up for me. You know, it's funny, this shadow, I would do it like this no matter what brand I was using, if it was a shimmer, but I'm not getting a lot of fallout from it at all. It's actually just kind of adhering right where I'm putting it really nicely. So I would say if you're somebody that's like, I have to do my face first, I feel crazy without foundation on, and then I do my eyes, I think you'd be okay. Yeah. All right, let's see. Okay.
Where are you going after this?
Right here.
Well, perfect. Hey.
Yeah, I know, right?
I'll just walk around and let everyone know.
So I'm actually gonna go with probably a makeup artist best friend, the Q-tip. We all have them. Yes. We all love them. So because now I love the intensity of the lower lash line, but I do want to diffuse it and make it look as seamless as possible. So I'm just gonna go clean, nothing on it. I'm gonna go right underneath, barely, just right where it kind of ends, and I'm just gonna diffuse it slightly. So it kind of gives a little bit more of a blown out look, but it's not messy, and it's very controlled. Other side. And then don't worry about that inner corner. We're gonna give it some love. Do we like the look so far?
Absolutely. It makes me just want to throw on a one piece and sit under a cabana and, just all that.
So let's do something on the inner corner. All right, so I'm actually, you know what? I'm gonna go into the highlight that we're gonna put on the cheeks here in a moment. This is also from Fenty Beauty. This is the Kilowatt highlight in Lightning Dust and Fire Crystal. So I really love these. She did come out with 3 limited edition duos for summer, but I figured this one would probably be the most neutral and the most wearable all year. And so this one is a little bit more of like kind of a metallic sheen, whereas this is your true blinding highlight. You can wear them separate or you can wear them together. So just depending. So I'll kind of show you the different effects. We'll go ahead and do this side first, which is the more subtle of the two. I'm gonna have you look down for me, Shay. And my brush is not wet. That's just how glowy it is. Really, really pretty.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Mine like falls off so fast.
This is the number 41 brush from Sephora, by the way. It's super detailed, great for cut creases, inner corner, nose highlight, whatever you're into.
Yeah.
Look down for me. And I'm gonna kind of, you'll notice I'm kind of touching that lid shade just a little bit to make sure that it's nice and seamless together. And you can even kind of turn it back up and then blend it in with the other one. So let's go in with the other side because we want a little bit more intensity. That's real cute, but we want a little bit more.
Yeah.
Okay,
We gotta go all around.
We have to. So we're gonna go back into the shimmer side. Ooh, that's pretty. And then let's do a little bit of that one. Actually, let's mix them a little bit. And we'll do brow bone. That just gave a really pretty glow. Okay, look straight ahead. Oh, that's so pretty. Love it. All right, look straight up for me. So we'll go ahead and tuck a little bit of that right in here. And it's gonna kind of blend with our blue. Just a little. So Shay already has beautiful lashes. We're gonna do a little bit of mascara on her lower lashes. This is the new Monsieur Big from Lancome and waterproof. So it's a pretty new launch for the waterproof formula, and it is truly amazing. I have had clients come in and tell me I was literally swimming, like submerged in a pool, and this did not run. So it is impressive. Yes. So go ahead and look up for me. So I'm almost just gonna kind of tap on like the root of the lash. And then I do like to take a clean spoolie and just kind of go through because we don't want any clumps.
Oh yeah,
that's for sure.
That's a great tip.
Mm-hmm. So you have a little bit of definition on this lower lash. So pretty. All right. So we're gonna go back into our kilowatt, and we're gonna layer both of those. So I'm gonna use, this is actually one of the newest Sephora brushes. This is the number 98 highlight. Love it. Very similar to the Anastasia highlight brush, but I actually like this one a little bit better just because it picks up a little bit more product, and it's so soft. So I love it.
Yes.
All right. So let's get you in the light. Turn that way for me. You can wet her highlights too, and they will kind of give a little bit of an extra sheen. But they tend to be pretty metallic, just even on their own. And I like to kind of focus it mostly on the high point. Okay. So we'll do a little bit more. I'm going to turn my brush over. We'll do some of the shimmer. Oh, there it is. Oh, yeah. So pretty. Wow. in that mirror, I can see it in the light. It's so pretty.
It probably makes you look more alert and awake too those mornings when you're feeling
100%.
sleep deprived.
100%. Especially that inner corner highlight. It's gonna bring your eyes forward. It's gonna open them up a lot. It makes the eyes look even bigger too. So I like to focus mostly the highlight on the high points. So right where Shay's cheekbone is kind of the highest. She has great cheekbones. Yeah. Another tip too, the reason I'm doing the highlight first, a lot of people kind of do it after. The reason I like to do it first is because we are going to do a bronzer and we're going to do a blush. So when you're applying your bronzers and your blushes, it kind of tends to blend into the highlight a little bit, and that way it makes it look a little bit more natural and blended, and it's not just kind of like a metallic stripe sitting on your cheek. Right. It just kind of becomes one with all your cheek products. So
that's a good tip. Yep, because I was doing that. I was doing the dark first and then the light. I don't know why. Because it's funny, in the palette that I had, the NARS, you know, the light's on the left, and then the dark side. Just go like you're reading, guys. Like, it's placed there for a reason, probably. Right. That's so funny.
So now that we have Shay highlighted, she has this beautiful glow. Her high points are all illuminated, looks stunning. We're going to do a little bit of a waterproof bronzer. This is Park Avenue Princess from Tarte. And they do have a shimmery version, and this is the matte version. So because we're going to be doing a little bit like a contoured effect with it too, we're going to do a matte, just because we want that contour to look a little bit more kind of natural and one with the face versus something super glowy. I'm going to go back to my number 50 brush. This one is the Flawless Light Powder. I'm putting it on kind of on one angle.
Okay.
And I'm going to start further back on Shay's cheek. So anything with contour or bronze, you do want to stay pretty far back on the face and then blend forward. The reason for that is because you want the most concentration of product and the most depth to be further back. That's going to allow it to look a lot more natural, versus if you start your contour and your bronze way down here on your cheek, it's going to be a lot more noticeable that way, of course. So blend kind of
good tips. Thank you.
Oh yeah. And then I like to blend up too. So again, because we're lifting, we want to keep everything nice and lifted, and I don't want to bring the bronzer too far down. Sorry, my fingers are covered in makeup, but you want to stay at least 2 finger lengths width away from the corner of the mouth. You don't want to bring it too far down, because then you'll start to kind of section the face off.
Okay. That's something I recently learned.
Yeah. That's probably another, along with eyeshadow, we get lots of questions about contour. Contour isn't as all the rage as it was 2 years ago or so, but we still get lots of questions about the colors and placement, things like that. And I would say definitely, if anything, cheeks are going to be where it's going to be the most noticeable, and so that's where you really want to get the placement as close to perfect for your face shape as you can, because that's where people's eyes are going to go. So we have a little bit warmed up over here, and you can probably see the difference between the two sides. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, it's the same thing on this side. And another thing too, the reason I like to do the highlight first is because it almost kind of brings the natural planes of the face forward, so it allows contouring to be a lot easier. Yeah, so we already kind of brought out the high points of her cheeks, so it kind of makes the contouring placement kind of a no-brainer. And then you can do a little bit on the jawline. Got summer glow all over, of course. And I'll just take whatever I have left on my brush and just kind of go into Shay's hairline. She does have kind of a smaller or a typical kind of space for the forehead, so you don't need to do a lot by way of contouring or bronzing, because we don't really feel the need to make her forehead appear more symmetrical with her face or shorter. So we don't really need to do that all the way across. We can just do kind of on the sides of the temple to kind of tie everything together if you want. And we'll do whatever we have left on the end of the nose, because why not?
Yeah.
And chin, why not?
And chin.
So we'll do some waterproof blush. This is also from Tarte, one of my favorite shades ever, Exposed. This is probably the most universal blush I've ever seen. It's a beautiful, like, rosy brown. It looks great on everybody. It'll pull a little bit more brown depending on your skin tone, and a little bit more pink depending on your skin tone. But it literally goes with a smoky eye, a wing liner,
so nice
whatever.
Because you don't want to sit there and look at all the blushes for 20 minutes.
These are also 12-hour wear. They're made with Tarte's Amazonian clay formula, so they are waterproof too, which is great.
Yes.
I know. Everything is just beach
perfect.
Yeah,
that's Floridians and
I know.
beachgoers need.
So I'm back at my 98. This is a highlight brush. I know. I use brushes for things other than what they are made for.
Like a true artist would. Seriously, yeah.
But I just want the placement to be really precise. I want a natural hair so I can blend and diffuse it really well, so this serves the purpose.
Yeah.
So I kind of like to start a little higher, because again, Shay has that beautiful cheekbone, and kind of work my way up and then down. So kind of in the center of her cheek. I didn't plant it right here. We kind of all learn, like, smile and put your blush right on the apples. But when you stop smiling, your face falls, and so the placement can change quite a bit.
Yeah.
So right in the center of the cheek is a good place to kind of get in the practice of using. And whatever you have left, you can just kind of dust it on. Now it's one with the highlight, one with the bronze, and it's perfect.
Oh, yeah.
Alright, so I think last but not least, we'll do a lip. And the lip that I picked is a really nice neutral. It's really fuss-free. You don't have to worry about it looking messy or like it's kind of fading throughout the day. And if it does, then it's really easy to apply and it won't look like it's just your lip color is wearing away. Right. So I picked a lip liner. This is the Aqua Lip Liner for Makeup Forever. It's waterproof. It's incredible. It's a nubbin. It's a nubbin now, as you can see. This is 3C, which is probably their most popular shade in the Aqua Lip Liners. It's kind of like a brownie pink. It goes with, again, so many skin tones. It's beautiful. Cool. So we're going to lay it down as a base, and we're going to do a really gorgeous gloss on top. So Shay, again, has beautiful lips. I mean, come on now. I barely have to do anything. So the reason I like to do a liner with a gloss is because we are going to do a gloss. This is going to give a little bit more longevity to the gloss. It's also going to bring out a little bit more color in the gloss. Kind of gives it something to stick to. And it's going to give her just a little bit of definition. And you'll kind of notice I started right in the center of her lip, and then I kind of went to the top here. So you can kind of really get a sense of the symmetry here. Again, because we're not doing like an extreme matte lip or anything where it has to be super precise. You don't have to worry about it too much, but we do want to make the lips look as flattering as possible. Accentuate our natural shape. And you can put this on all over. You could even wear this on its own all over as a lip color if you wanted. It's totally up to you. And we're bringing it in just a little bit on the lip. You'll notice it's not a super, super perfect thin lip line because we want it to be nice and seamless and not super detectable as just a lip liner. And then you can even kind of tap with your finger to help it kind of blend in if you want to soften that line further. All right, and now we got to start the show here. So this is the Gloss Bomb from Fenty. It is a universally flattering shade. It's a lip luminizer. It's just called Fenty Glow. So it's like a brownie pink with a little bit of shimmer in it. It's like winning. Yeah, it does. It's stunning, and it looks beautiful on its own, on top of a lipstick, on top of a liner. It's just great.
Cool. And it's the best smelling lip gloss I've ever tried.
What? It really is.
It smells amazing.
Oh my god, what does it smell like?
It smells like tropical fruit. It smells like tropical fruit. It's amazing.
Oh, it really does.
All right. I actually have it on too, I think, right now. Yeah.
Oh, sweaties.
At least one of us is usually wearing it when you come in. Oh my gosh, this is so pretty. So the reason that I picked a gloss is because when you're out on the beach, you're doing stuff outside, the last thing you want to worry about is, oh man, is my liquid lipstick fading? Is it cracking? Do my lips look dry? Do I have that line kind of in the middle? You just want something really fuss-free, but you know makes your lips look great. And this is really the gloss to do that. I know, right? Exactly. Okay, press together for me.
Can I watch?
Absolutely. Come hang out. I know. Lots of Fenty products that you use. I know. So
My account is just gonna be dry.
oh, I know, right? That's okay, because we're gonna look flawless. Apparently, this lip gloss smells like chocolate fruits and stuff. I know.
I'm like, I gotta have you smell it. It's the Fenty, right? Yes.
And what's the name of it again? We have a question here.
Ooh, the Fenty Glow.
Oh my god, yes. We're all smelling it, guys.
It's so good, right? $18. It's such a reasonable price.
That's a huge container.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A little
You're
bit goes a
never gonna
long
run
way.
out.
The dough foot on it is
God.
amazing. It's super huge. It's just, it's everything. I love this.
Oh, where's my wallet?
Okay, so is there, let's see.
Yes.
I think we're looking.
Did you just put that on?
I think we're looking
Good.
Fenty food.
Oh, man. You're welcome, Crystal.
All right. So once you kind of get your face down the way you want it, gonna check everything, of course. I think you're beach ready. It looks so pretty.
Right?
Yeah. I'm just gonna go back anywhere that we maybe want to touch up slightly.
What are you touching up with?
This is the number 56. So this is our base brush that we used. And I'm just going on to make sure, with the tinted moisturizer.
Okay.
Yep,
Got
just to make sure that we don't have any harsh lines.
Yeah.
Everything's nice and blended.
Those lips, though.
I know. I'm so glad you like it. It's so pretty. I know. I
love all of
can't.
it.
I can't. All right. So, a little bit going close. Just a little bit of shadow there, but it's fine. So now, even though we did our setting powder, everything's waterproof, we are going to do a little bit of a spray because it's the most fun part of the makeup routine, and it just feels great. So my favorite is the Makeup Forever Mist and Fix. It's incredible. It's alcohol free. It's fragrance free. It makes everything you put on top sweat proof and transfer proof. I know. It's awesome.
It's
or everything
magic in a bottle,
you
is
put
basically what you're
underneath,
telling me.
I should say, sorry. But it's incredible. It also does have glycerin in it, so it's actually a great prep spray as well. Glycerin acts as almost like a magnet for makeup, so if you don't like to use a primer, you don't like the feel of primers, you're very dry, this is a great alternative for kind of the traditional primers that are in tubes. So it'll act as a kind of a gripper, a setter, and you can refresh throughout the day, so it's great.
Yeah, multi-use.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, that's perfect.
All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and spray. So I like to do either a T
like,
or an X, but you could also just spray until your heart's content, whatever you want to do.
I feel like there should be like a boomerang, like flawless going on.
So we have a really pretty, unique eye look, a little bit of color. It's so fun. I love it. So good. Do you want to see Shay?
Oh my god, yes! Oh my god, yeah, you haven't gotten to see it!
I haven't gotten to see it at all.
Spin you around.
So excited.
That's crazy.
Do you like it?
Yes, I love it. It's exactly how I wanted it to come out.
Oh, guys.
That blue is amazing.
It's fun, right?
No. I know, it's just yes, 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 yes,
Oh my god. That inner corner looks so nice. It really does.
I'm so happy you like it. Yay!
Was I ever gonna hate it though?
No.
Wow.
Get the glasses too.
Yeah, even with my glasses, you can still see.
Yeah, absolutely.
It looks fantastic.
And the cool thing is too, guys, anytime you want to learn anything from us, we do mini makeovers. So they are 15 minutes, complimentary. They're walk-in, and we can focus on one area of the face. If you want your eyes done, lips, brows. And we also offer free classes here, which is great. I happen to teach them. I'm the facilitator, so
awesome.
yeah.
Well, we know you already, so we're
So we do classes usually twice a month. The next one we have is on August 28th, and it's Flawless Foundation.
which is on our website, guys.
Yes, yes. And they're complimentary classes. So we provide all the materials. We will color match you with our awesome technology, our Color IQ, get your undertone, find you the perfect foundation, coverage, finish for your skin, show you how to apply it, and awesome. It's all free. Yeah, cool. It's really fun.
Thank you so much for modeling. Thank you so much for doing this with us.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
It's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll see you next time.